And I'm sorry because I have a really long statement, it's longer than last year. First of all, I want to tell each of you that I've received hundreds of emails in the past 4 weeks. I received emails on both sides of this issue. Many I was unable to respond back to. I am a full-time mom, a full-time employee, and what has become a full-time board member. I apologize to anyone who sent an email who I was unable to respond back to. I tried. However, I do want to tell you that I read each email I received at least twice. Once to just read through the points in the letter, and once to truly understand the points in the letter. I need to give everyone just a sample of what I have seen, experienced, and felt over the past several weeks. First of all, I need to say that within the last 72 hours, I have been through the entire gamut. I've changed my vote 5 times. I've written a resignation speech that I was going to read at the beginning of this meeting. And then I planned on leaving the meeting after I gave the speech. That was it. It was over for me. I was resigning. Not because of any pressures, let me make that clear. But because the past 2 years, through all of this, I've been absent. I've been absent from my family, and they have suffered immensely because of it. Not physically absent, of course, mentally absent. Just 2 weeks ago, when I was testing my oldest daughter for her social studies test, thank you, Mr. Wiskowitz. I love your test. In the span of that hour and a half, I received over 10 different texts, 4 emails, and 2 phone calls that were all related to this. And that has been a typical hour and a half of my evenings with my family. I have been absent from my family, and I was determined for once to think of my family first. I'm sorry. Over the past year, I have been both applauded for my resolve and my passion when I gave my speech last year, and I was called a traitor and received nasty texts and had horrible Facebook posts made about me when I voted how I did to fill the school board position that was vacated last year. I have lost friends. I'm sorry, this is 12 pages. But I also learned who my friends really are, but I am not resigning tonight. I'm not doing that tonight for 2 reasons. One, because I made a commitment to do the best job I could for the children of our district, and 2, because come June, when my daughter walks across that stage behind me of this wonderful school, I want nothing more than to be up there on that stage and hand her the diploma she deserves for all of her hard work. In the past 72 hours, I have gone back and forth on my decision multiple times, struggling between what I truly believe is the right thing to do, which is to not close any school, and what I think is the reality of the situation we are faced with, which is not being able to move forward as a community or a district unless we do close a school. And since I haven't been able to respond back to each email I received over the past 4 weeks, I want to address a few points here. Most of the emails I have said, I'm not thinking of all the children in our district, and I just think of the Evans community. To that, I would like to say this. Years ago, before I was ever on the school board, I have always stood up for all of our schools. I have always stood up for all of our children, and I have always stood up for all of our staff. For years, at a time when no one else in town was looking. Certainly not to the extent they are now. Time after time, I was in front of that microphone, and I stood up for all of our staff, urging support of our budget and rallying support around our teachers and our children's education. I did that at a time when many others didn't. 1 year back, when the budget was still voted on by the public, I spent hundreds of my own dollars creating, printing, and distributing flyers, walking door to door, handing them out, urging people to support our budget. In that flyer, I listed out all the areas in which our staff has made sacrifices for our district. That year, our budget passed the public vote for the first time in several years. That was before I was ever on the school board. Even if I only played a small part in that, I was proud, and I felt that was a victory for all of our schools. Many of you may not know that or may not remember that, but I would respectfully tell you that without question, I have always stood up for all of our staff in schools. I am still that person. That has not changed. Many of the emails I received said that I was basing my decision on emotion and asked me to not base my decisions on my ties to the Evans community. Many of those same people said how angry or upset they were that politics is taking over our school district, and that I had the power to change that. That I needed to vote to stay on the path of consolidation because of that. I went over this time and time again in my head. I despise politics in our schools. There's no place for it. Anyone who knows anything about me at least knows that. But on the one hand, you're asking me to vote not based on my feelings for the Evans community, but you're asking me instead to vote based on the feelings of disgust for politics in our schools. In other words, you're asking me to vote based on one emotion and not on another emotion. There's a little hypocrisy in that, even if unintentional. Some even tried to persuade me to vote for consolidation because I was aligning myself with others in town who were politically motivated and that I was perceived badly because of it. Again, you asked me to vote based on an emotion and said you didn't understand why I wouldn't do that. I respectfully need to tell all of you that when I took my oath of this office, I had to also put aside letting any perception of me cloud my judgment or any decision I had to make. I would also argue that some who have argued for consolidation have let politics take over their thought process as well. Just the hatred of politics instead of the influence of politics. To me, that is also wrong. If you want to get politics out of our schools, don't let it fuel you in any way, because only then can you think clearly in a truly unbiased way. Don't let the hatred cloud your judgment. It took me a while to get there, but that's where I am, and I am better for it. A few in town said directly to me or insinuated that Mr. de Blasio hasn't been a good leader because his staff and his families haven't rallied around the administration and supported the consolidation plan, that they shouldn't be so outspoken against it. Yet they have supported others in speaking out for consolidation and commended them for being courageous. Now we are encouraging the silencing of some and not others. Again, does anyone else see the hypocrisy in this? Everyone in this room has the right and should be empowered to come up and speak about what effect something of this proportion will have. Everyone. And I will tell each of you that I have seen many leaders. I have worked with many leaders, and Mr. de Blasio is one of the best I have ever seen. I think his teachers, his kids, his parents, and anyone who truly knows him can attest to that. Many people have told me that the Evans teachers and families don't understand what the rest of the district is going through because they don't have empty classrooms, they don't have related arts teachers traveling, they don't have teachers moving around due to declining enrollment, they haven't experienced uneven class sizes. I've been told over and over again the Evans community just needs to move on. I truly do feel the pain of all those things that other schools experience. I honestly and truly do. If I didn't, my life would not be the living hell that it is today. But I would respectfully also say that most people have never seen and will never really honestly and truly experience what the Evans community has over the past 5 years or more. Most people have not had to worry year after year if that was their last year with their school family, whether it be teachers or students or parents. Most people have not had to worry about possibly having that conversation with their child again for the third time. Most people have not had to go through the year every day for 5 years with that cloud over their heads. Most people can't possibly understand what that life has been like. So before anyone judges their neighbor on both sides of this issue, instead of saying, I feel for them, but I know what they're going through, but yes, they are a great school, but of course they have great teachers, but the conversations on both sides should be, I feel for them, what can we do? I know what they're going through. What can we do? Yes, they are a great school. What can we do? They have a great teacher family. What can we do? Last March, I spoke for probably about 20 minutes on why I was against consolidation of schools. I spoke about the studies I researched on how this had a detrimental effect on students. I spoke about how every school was a family in and of itself, and that each was an integral part of our community, and that we needed to do everything possible to have the least possible impact on our children and staff to solve the issues we are facing. I spoke about how I read several studies that said not only smaller class sizes contributed to student success, but also that smaller school population contributed to student success, that these led to more personal interactions. I spoke about how a neighboring school district was investing in their district by hiring someone to specifically look at additional revenue generating opportunities, not only to keep all of their important programs, but also to maintain all of their facilities. I spoke about how they understood the importance of both and that we could do it too. I spoke of how we needed an analysis of specifically what it would look like if we needed to close a school side by side with an analysis of what it would look like if we needed to raise class size side by side with what it would look like if we needed to revise specific programs side by side with what it would look like if the majority of the board wasn't in favor of any of those options. Not just theoretically, but actually. Not just listing out possible changes that would need to be made, but actual changes that would need to be made. Because only then could we make a truly informed decision. That didn't happen. I spoke about how I was one of the thousands of people who didn't accept either option of closing the school or cutting staff and altering programs. And I asked everyone to stop, everyone to take that unique opportunity we had in the face of adversity and stop and take the next 12 months to seize the opportunity and come together and look at other solutions together instead of dividing. I talked about how I have seen our community come together in ways that no other community ever has, and that we needed to do that again, but this time because our school district needed us. But now, here we are. Here we are. Where are we? We're now in a place where not only have we not come together, we have started World War III right here in our town. Not only have we not reached out to our neighbor, we have publicly lashed out against one another on social media. Not only have we not taken a moment to stop and truly put ourselves in the shoes of someone on the other side of the aisle, we have become obsessed with arguing our own side. I'd like to talk for a second about why I think we are where we are as a community. Way back when we first started talking about consolidation, maybe 5 years ago, we said we needed to consolidate schools and close Evans School. That it made the most sense because of transportation efficiencies and the map. Right then and there, I believe we made our first mistake. Right then and there, we created the first divide in our town. We named a school before any chance of collaboration. It was Evans against everyone else. Right then and there, any collaboration, teamwork, or coming together as a community was lost. Any possibility of uniting and finding solutions to what we are facing was erased. Had we said, here are our issues, we're looking at the possible need to close a school, what can we do? What are our options? I truly believe that we would have been able to come together as a community to implement solutions that would have the least impact to our students. That was the initial action that led us to the divide that we have today. We were specific in identifying the school with the stated intent of being transparent, but when discussing the only other alternative put forth, the need to possibly cut programs, we listed a slew of programs that could possibly be cut. In theory, we decided, perhaps unintentionally, and it upset everyone. We didn't want to name specific programs that could be impacted because the reading recovery community would be upset, or the Tier 3 community would be upset, or the related arts community would be upset. That would cause a divide and unnecessary angst if we did that. Option A of closing Evans, we want to be fully transparent, but option B, the possible need to cut programs, We're just going to talk about them in theory and as a group of programs so that we wouldn't create division, which led to the perhaps unintended consequence of creating the feeling of the Evans community against everyone else. I don't know if I'm the only one, but the irony in that has troubled me from day one. Then politics. Politics came into the equation and made the divide so incredibly worse. And those are the reasons why I think we are where we are as a community. In my opinion, the second mistake that was made is that the very next day after that vote in March, the leaders in our district should have gone to Evans School, regardless of how awkward it may have felt. They should have sat with our staff. They should have sat with our Evans parents and said, I know how hard it is. I understand what you're going through. How are you? I'm sorry we are where we are. I feel for you and I understand. And here's how we're going to get through this together. And now here we are. We have staff against staff, we have parents against parents, we have a community divided. But over the past 72 hours, I have been slapped in the face with reality. I still don't feel like closing the school is the right thing to do when this side-by-side analysis hasn't been fully done, or when I truly feel that all other possible options have not been explored. But we are so far along. If this decision gets reversed and we vote to keep Evans open, this community will never truly heal. Anything that happens from this day forward because of where we are and what we have become, the community will feel it is because of Evans. The Evans staff will feel isolated for a very long time to come. Evans parents will feel unwanted for a very long time to come. And the people for consolidation will feel the Evans community does not see what they see for a very long time to come. If this decision gets reversed, there will be another round of those who fight for the reversal of the reversal. There may be people who will try to halt the approval of the decision because of other pending matters. It will truly never end. And the ones who will suffer are the children who have been treated and will be treated like ping pong balls by all of us. And as much as it pains me to say it, if Evans stays open, Evans as it is now known to all of those who love it, will not be the same. Zones will need to be moved out. Teachers will need to move anyway. And for the remaining Evans community, it will feel emptier and lonelier than it is now. It pains me to say it because I am stuck making a choice between what I believe is the right thing and the reality of the situation. And finally, bear with me for a moment. I need to read an excerpt from a book I read years ago when I was running to become a school board member. I had forgotten about this book until this morning, and I picked it up again. The title of the book is called How Not to Be a Terrible School Board Member. And it was written by Richard Mayer, a former school board member in California. It talks about mistakes you should avoid as a school board member. Take notice of the startling similarities. A passage in the book goes like this. There is nothing more traumatic to a school district than closing a school. That conventional wisdom is playing out tonight at your board meeting. The boardroom has a standing-only crowd in spite of the extra seats you brought in. You have never seen this many people in the room before. There must be more than 250 mostly agitated people out there, and you can feel the overwhelming tension in the room right now. When you walked to your place in the front of the boardroom, you saw many familiar, albeit worried faces. For the entire year, your district has grappled with the prospect of closing an elementary school due to declining enrollment. Tonight is the moment of decision because this is the very last chance to make a decision in time to get it implemented for next year. Each board member takes a turn describing his or her thoughts, some reading from prepared statements. The board president must repeatedly use his gavel to calm the boos or cheers from the crowd. You have become convinced that closing a school is not necessary and would be a terrible mistake. And in your statement, you try to explain why. However, in the discussion that follows, you can see that you are not being successful in convincing your fellow board members. As the discussion winds down, one board member says, "I move to accept the superintendent's recommendation to close Peachtree Elementary School effective July 1st. Almost immediately, the room breaks into pandemonium. Finally, the board meeting reaches that dramatic moment when an extremely important decision comes down to the wishes of a simple majority of the board. In a split vote, the motion passes. You are upset as many folks in the room are. You can see the sadness and worry in their faces. You cast a strong no vote, and you want everyone to remember that. You feel like vomiting, but you know you have to make a final comment. Mr. President, may I say something, you ask? Given the nod, you continue. I just want to say that in all my years of following this board, this is the worst decision I have ever seen. This decision will come back to haunt you. It will have terrible impacts on the students of Peachtree for years to come. And if I were a parent, I'd be looking around for a good private school. You are angry and you want everyone to know just how terrible their decision was." The book goes on to say, "There have been terrible moves as a school board member, but this one takes the prize for being the very worst. You might think you have the responsibility to be the voice for the many disappointed parents in the audience. You might think you are being honest by expressing your disgust at what you think is a terrible idea for the district. You might think you are being prudent by sending warning signals when you see the district moving into dangerous waters. Your timing was terrible. After the final vote, you were still radiating negative energy. Instead of helping the community heal, you have reopened a festering sore. Instead of being a responsible board member, you were truly a terrible one. Something you could have said was, obviously, I am disappointed in the vote, but now that decision has been made, I will do everything I can to make this transition as smooth as possible." I had to look back at the cover of the book because I could have authored every word of it. For the past year, I have not been a good board member. I was so busy fighting for what I knew was the right thing. I was so busy standing true to my beliefs and my values. I was so busy keeping my integrity intact. I was so busy defending what I felt was the best for the district. I failed to see that the kids were becoming ping pong balls. So now that I am doing the hardest thing I have ever had to do in my life, as I vote to not overturn this decision, I ask each of you this: look into your souls like I did. To those of you who I hold near and dear on this side of the room, have you done everything you can to make the Evans families and staff feel welcome and comfortable when their school closes? Have your actions been welcoming? Look into your souls, not tomorrow, but tonight. Is there anything you can say to someone on the other side of the aisle when this meeting is over to make them feel more welcome? Is there anything more you can do to help heal these relationships? And to the Evans families, I know better than anyone how hard this is. I hope you know I do. Look into your souls. Have you done everything you can can to try and make it work and feel welcomed, even though it will be one of the hardest things you will ever have to do. Is there anything more you can do? And to our school board members and administration, is there anything we can do to learn from the way we have handled this that we should have done differently? We've done everything we can to make all of this easier on not just the children, but the parents and the staff as well. Can we all use what has become one of the most destructive things our community has ever faced as a lesson moving forward? Can we finally come together as a district and make it great once again? I beg each of you, please, not later, not tomorrow. Look into your souls now, tonight, and reach out to someone whose lives will be affected by this transition. Please, I beg you, don't let this opportunity pass tonight to reach out to someone and help them heal. There are no winners tonight.